still trying to get a bead on what different teams are thinking. We know in 2020 there was no preseason whatsoever due to COVID. And that woke up a few teams in terms of, hey, we went out there in September and we were fine. We were fine. But I think a couple of coaches, and I've heard whispers of this, looked at that and said, yeah, we were fine because everybody else was in the same boat. Like everybody else had no preseason, so our guys looked okay. I wasn't happy with our preparation. I wasn't happy with where our rookies were. I wasn't happy with where our first team was.
And there he is. He's good enough to join us here, our pal, one of the best beards in the business, Mike Tanier from footballoutsider.com. How did you enjoy your first week of full preseason action, Mr. Tanier?
I nearly lost my mind. I tried to watch as many games as possible in real time. I want to get that immediate reaction, go back and look at it. But it's difficult because there's a lot of bad football, and there's a lot of folks on Twitter screaming about the bad football. Based on what I saw, like there were some impressive things. Based on what I read on Twitter, apparently there are 6 franchise quarterbacks, 37 all-pro wide receivers, and 100 future Hall of Fame defenders in this draft class alone, based on the one highlight each of them produced.
I can guarantee you that Dallas-Denver game, there were no future Hall of Famers.
Oh, that was rough. That was the roughest of the rough games this week by far.
Yeah, and of course, who had to write about for CBS? Yours truly. I'm like, this is what am I doing? It's 12:30 on Saturday night. I need to get a life or something.
I looked at who was in the game as starters, and I forget what else something else was playing. Like Sam Darnold or someone was playing at the same time. Like click over to that game. I'm not watching this game.
Wasn't that the Kenny Pickett comeback?
Yes.
I think wasn't that on?
Yes, it was. I watched the Kenny Pickett comeback. And again, at least I'm watching a first-round pick go out there and complete some passes. And Drew Lock was quarterbacking for the Broncos, and he's apparently in a quarterback competition in the year 2022 with Geno Smith. Oh, my God. But I got to watch that instead of the Ben DiNucci experience.
Yeah, as sick as I am, the Pittsburgh-Seattle game looked like a matchup of teams that can't decide, do they really even want to decide who their quarterback's going to be? They all play pretty good. Yeah. Trubisky wasn't terrible. Mason Rudolph was all right, and Kenny Pickett pulled the game out at the end. And oh, by the way, Geno Smith was all right, and Drew Lock wasn't terrible until he fumbled at the end, which allowed Pittsburgh to steal the game. But yeah, I thought that was a game you can't watch because you don't want to watch any of the quarterbacks. I did watch it, and I thought the quarterbacks were okay on both of the two teams, much to my surprise, Mike Tanier.
Yeah, and I call that preseason porn because when both teams have a quarterback controversy and there's a rookie, like no matter how late the game goes, somebody's in the game you'll probably be watching in October or November. And again, neither team could really tackle because all the backups were out there. Nobody could cover. So the quarterbacks did look fine for themselves, but you don't really learn a lot about that. You can't come out of that saying, well, Mitch Trubisky is going to lead the Steelers to the playoffs. What you can say is at least we looked at these guys and are starting to get a sense of how they could possibly perform in 2022.
I'll tell you what, Mike, I'm the jerk with the Seahawks quarterback competition. First off, I laugh at it. And second of all, I'm like, just go with Geno Smith. I saw what he did on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers last year. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. Just go with the guy who wasn't terrible. I know what Drew Lock is.
I go the other direction. Drew Lock.
So do I.
1% of upside. Drew Lock might have 1% of upside going around in there. Geno Smith is on the way down this sort of Gardner Minshew mountain of being a guy who's going to sort of run around, sort of still scrambling, kind of okay, and then deliver 3-yard passes. I don't necessarily see it, but I go back to, remember many years ago when Washington had Rex Grossman versus John Beck?
Oh, yeah.
John Beck. Ooh, there's a name I haven't heard in a while.
He was like a 28-year-old second-year quarterback. Like he had gone on his Yeah. Yeah, and like Mike Shanahan was the coach, and like the Washington media was like, how can you question that Mike Shanahan is going to take these guys in his system and groom one of them into being a starter? And had my hands in my ears. Well, the next year they drafted both RG3 and Kirk Cousins because that's what Washington does. That's what Seattle's going to have to do in 2020.
Yeah, you're giving me Rodney Pete, Ty Detmer flashbacks here, Mike. I'm not happy about it.
Rodney Pete, Ty Detmer, and Bobby Hoying.
Oh, yeah. Bobby Hoying was good for like 3 games, and then they figured him out. Let's just put it
that. Some Eagle fans were ready to erect a statue of him down at the link
because
the
Bengals game.
of those 3 games that he had. All right, Mike, I do want to ask you this question, and thanks for coming on. And John asked you to come on, and it plays into something I've been discussing elsewhere, but I know you're a guy with strong Hall of Fame opinions.
Yes.
I said on my CBS Sports Radio show this weekend that I think, and I don't know this is the case, and we're gonna have to wait 20 years to find out, but Fernando Tatis Jr. may have compromised his Hall of Fame status with taking drugs as a 23-year-old. He's probably going to play 15 more years of baseball and then wait 5 years before he's eligible for the Hall of Fame. And then we'll find out how the voters are going to hold it against him. But the track record is you get caught, you get suspended, you don't get into the Hall of Fame. And someone asked me, a caller asked me the question, how does the NFL handle that? Do they go nearly as harshly as the baseball writers for guys who have taken performance-enhancing drugs? It seems less. I don't know that they've had many guys to even debate in the room since the NFL cracked down and put suspensions in for PED users as well. How does the NFL handle the Hall of Fame when it comes to guys who are drug cheats?
Nothing at all like baseball. And it's not just the performance enhancing, but any off the field stuff. You know, as a rule, a Pro Football Hall of Fame voter is not supposed to look at any off field infractions. So, you know, whatever you say about Ray Lewis and Marvin Harrison and guys like that, that's off the table. Now, PEDs are a little bit different because it does affect the team, but like the general attitude is you get your suspension, you come back from your suspension, and then that's it. That's your 6-game gap, or even that's your 1-year gap. If that impacted your Hall of Fame resume because you didn't play enough to be a great player or you missed these prime seasons, then you're probably on the outside. But it's not like you go in there and it's like you have Lawrence Taylor's a resume or something, and people are like, well, they had a 6-game PED suspension. It's not like that at all. I personally think baseball's around the bend with that. I actually don't know much about the Tatis situation, but when I look at the stars of the 90s that we remember as superstars, and like some of them, it's still just a rumor. It's still just something that was whispered down the vein, and they're not in the Hall of Fame. I don't understand that at all. I prefer the way Pro Football Hall of Fame does it. I think that's more fair and more reasonable. And I don't think we're going to see a situation. We'll see situations with guys like Antonio Brown. That's different. Yeah. But I know it came up with like DeAndre Hopkins, like this 6-game suspension. If he becomes a Hall of Famer, will that impact him? No, the only way it will impact him is that he doesn't play enough, and then he goes to the back of the line of great wide receivers with Mike Evans and those guys because he wasn't there to help his team this year.
Mike, what did you think of the Deion Sanders comments? Because to me, you're in the Hall of Fame. You're in the Hall of Fame. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'll talk to people on Twitter and fans and be like, you know, you journos, you media types, you play favorites in the Hall of Fame. You were mad and you kept Terrell Owens out for 2 whole years because you didn't like him. And they'll say things like that. And you know what? The players should decide. Well, you know what would happen if you had the players decide the Hall of Fame?
I know what will happen.
Yes. Every grudge, back in my day, we were manly men and these guys can't play and they don't have to cover and the rules have changed. All of that would happen. The golf buddies would get in, and then like the superstar who they didn't like wouldn't get in. And you would hear all this Deion Sanders stuff. You got to remember Deion Sanders a couple of years ago got into a beef. When he was a TV announcer, he got into a beef. He didn't know who Kevin Byard was. He didn't know who the all-pro safety for the Titans was. In his position group, generally speaking, didn't know who that guy was. This is the kind of person you would bring in and let them run the Hall of Fame. No, the Hall of Fame would be 20 guys, and it would just be Deion Sanders and like his cigar buddies.
Agreed. That is not the way to go. Sorry for all you Hall of Famers out there who think that you do a better job than they put the time and effort.
Deion or Michael Irvin when it comes to all. Michael Irvin just said that the Cowboys reduced their penalties yesterday. They're going to be the 72 Dolphins, or they matched up with. I'm like, come on.
And it's like we know the Hall of Fame voters. We know the guys who do it, and like we hear them like, I'm calling old players, I'm calling old coaches. They're calling me. I'm emailing them. I've got this little dossier of the person I'm presenting. All this work goes in. You know, the players are just come in shooting from the hip. They watch the game on Sundays like we did. They've got their car dealership or whatever. They're the morning voice of the Cincinnati Bengals on a radio station. They're not going to come in with like all of this background knowledge and be ready to debate. They're like, hey, I remember that guy. He beat me once on the field. Put him in, or don't put him in because he beat me once.
Mike, I don't know about you. I'm a guy who enjoys shots from the grassy knoll. Don't always buy into them, but I always enjoy hearing specific stories and or beliefs that there's a hidden gunman behind every curve. Okay. This one I heard for the first time, and I hadn't even thought of it, and shame on me. I should have come up with the ability to add 2 and 2 together and figure this out for myself. I didn't, but when I saw it this week, I said, oh, damn, they're onto something. J.C. Tretter is the head of the Players Association, president of the Players Association. And last year was the 6th-ranked center on Pro Football Focus. And you can have your opinion of Pro Football Focus's rankings, whether you like it, don't like it sometimes, don't like it all the time. I think they do a pretty good job. And it's very difficult to rate centers' productions. They had him as the 6th best center in the NFL last year. Became a free agent, still isn't signed. Is this a union thing? That is he being blackballed by the National Football League that he can't get a job when he was the 6th best center in the NFL last year?
Even though the Buccaneers lost a center and the Browns just lost 2 centers, and so these jobs are opening up. You know, on the one hand, I was union leadership when I was a teacher back in the NFLPA, and your antenna is always up for something like this. This is retribution. The problem I'm having in the Tretter case is, for what? The NFL got that contract signed in 2020, that new CBA, that 10-year CBA. And Tretter was sort of, I don't think he was voted in yet as president. He was still just one of the voices in the room at that point. But the NFL got just about everything they wanted in that. They avoided a work stoppage right at the same time as the COVID shutdown. When everyone was shuttering, the union kind of fell in the ranks and signed this. They got the ownership got the control they wanted. You know, Goodell has this power right now to overturn everything. If you're, his retribution for being the head of the players union, for what? What did he do that was so bad besides be the head of the union? That's the part that I keep tripping over. Who did he tick off when the union has been sort of at heel? It's been at heel really for the last 25 years, but definitely for the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't get either. Mike, just the whole JC Tretter, but another one too. Like, I'm actually kind of shocked Odell Beckham hasn't signed yet, or if he's waiting, or have you heard anything like of his status right now? Everyone's sort of waiting because he won't be available yet. I think what we're going to see is the workout video, or we're going to hear the Dr. James Andrews report about his knee, and then it will pick up. And I think the teams that are interested, like the Rams, like potentially the Buccaneers, they're circling, they're looking at their cap situation, they're looking at their own receivers and waiting. So, that's a different thing. It's very different with Tretter, where he doesn't have an injury, and we've had all these injuries around the league where we say, okay, come in. Beckham, you can kind of see like no one wants to make the decision right now, bring him in and discover, oh, we went in with a scope on the knee, and it's going to be another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, which could impact the playoff run.
All right, this week coming up in preseason action is the penultimate, which I like to use that word because I know what it means. I used to misuse it, and someone once advised me, Jody, you misusing the word. So I now know for sure what it means, next to last. Yes. Penultimate week of NFL football. It used to be called the dress rehearsal week, yes, where the starters would play at least to the half, if not toward the third quarter. You're going to get no starters going anywhere near half across the National Football League this week. It has changed to the positive and the detriment of the NFL. The teams, and the Eagles certainly fall into this category, Mike, are more cognizant of injuries than actual getting reps into their players to be ready for game one.
It's very variable right now because you're right. Most teams are like, let's bench the starters forever and keep them in bubble wrap. Frank Reich does not agree. The Colts, Matt Ryan was out there, I think, in the third quarter or something. And we're all watching this like, why? That's Matt Ryan. We know he can play football. We know he'll be ready. Why is he out there? It wasn't really the third quarter, et cetera. So it's variable from team to team. I'm still trying to get a bead on what different teams are thinking. We know in 2020 there was no preseason whatsoever due to COVID. And that woke up a few teams in terms of, hey, we went out there in September and we were fine. We were fine. But I think a couple of coaches, and I've heard whispers of this, looked at that and said, yeah, we were fine because everybody else was in the same boat. Like everybody else had no preseason, so our guys looked okay. I wasn't happy with our preparation. I wasn't happy with where our rookies were. I wasn't happy with where our first team was. And some of them in the last year or two are pendulum swinging back. I mean, we did see the starters for a series or two for the Eagles. So it's variable all over the league. I'm not sure what to expect this week. For example, The Dolphins keep saying Tua Tagovailoa is going to play. He didn't play last week. I don't know if we're going to see him this week. So it's not like what it was, and I'm really not sure what the optimal situation is going to turn out to be. I'll tell you what it isn't optimal. Throwing Deshaun Watson out there because it's a PR move, and then throwing his starting center out there so that he doesn't get hurt and the starting center gets hurt. That's not optimal. That's stupid. Everything else I think is kind of negotiable.
Do you like the 3-game preseason, Mike, or would you rather have it short? Because I'm starting to get to, okay, let's go to 2 now because it's just taking too long. I would like 2. I think 2 is fine because you do want to get these guys out there. I think we need to see them in these game situations. I think we need a little something to talk about. I think it does work from a PR standpoint for the league to throw these games out there and get everybody ginned up. And the players probably get something out of it. It was always the first one where you're watching the 5th string. And the 4th one, the Labor Day one, which was just like, there is nothing worthwhile about this. This is just like the backups and practice squad running around out there. If you get rid of both of those, these ones in between, I think, have some value. By the way, Mike, that's my number 1 change to the NFL schedule if I had to make it. Let's start Labor Day again. I miss that.
I miss it too.
Never to happen, but
look at the TV ratings. They don't miss that. Everybody's still on summer vacation and stuff. The college games have started. U.S. Open, I think, does actually pick up some of those years. Like, screw this. We're going to start the following week when everyone's back to school. That's the way the NFL likes it.
Yeah, that's one they're not going to revisit. You're right about that. All right. I need both of you to comment on this because 3 of my favorite National Football League writers / opinion generators are Jeff Kerr, Mike Tanier, Peter King.
I'm glad to be in that conversation.
Yes.
Wow.
I was kind of surprised that Peter King, who, yes, I read faithfully every single week, Monday morning, he let the 49ers kind of use him to badmouth Jimmy G this week.
Oh, yeah.
That we had not heard anything about Jimmy G not being a good teammate or compliant. They've come to say he's gone, he's done, he's going to get traded. If not, he's going to be cut. They've completely washed their hands of him because Trey Lance looks good enough for them that they're going to go to the wall with him. And all of a sudden, Jimmy G is this problem child who doesn't like to work during the offseason. As soon as he got his contract, they couldn't get a hold of him. How did we not hear about this for years? And then all of a sudden, it's general knowledge. Everybody knows it.
Right?
How did Peter King get sucked down that rabbit hole?
I mean, I don't know where to start with it because, first of all, they're bad-mouthing him while trying to trade him. Okay. There's also a little bit of you're the boss. And for 3 or 4 years, I forget what it's been off the top of my head, this guy ghosted on you in the preseason and the offseason. You were mad about it, but you didn't resolve it. That doesn't look particularly good for you if you're Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Well, he's not returning our calls. Well, get him in here and read him the riot act. Call his agent and read the riot act. Yeah, you did draft Trey Lance. Bring in somebody else to kind of threaten his job a little bit. There's a lot of things you can do as a head coach to resolve this and say, look, maybe we need to have monthly meetings or weekly meetings in the offseason. They don't do that. So there's a lot of goofy stuff on that side. The bottom line is I have a feeling this 49ers version of the events is a little overstated at this point, and it's been a little over-dramatized as they try to, meet their agenda with this guy out the door.
What frustrated me about that whole thing was I thought Jimmy G handled it as well as you could have last year. He said, you know what? They drafted this guy. I know they want him to be the future. I thought Kyle Shanahan handled it well and said, you know what? Jimmy G's our quarterback this year to come hell or high water. And Jimmy G was a true soldier, and he helped out Trey Lance when he needed him. He was his biggest supporter. And this is how you repay the guy now, by finding some red flag, if you even want to call it that, because he doesn't want to return your calls in 2017, 2018. I don't know. And like what you said, Mike, they're trying to trade. What are you doing here?
Right. I don't understand it at all.
All right, Mike, have you checked this week's preseason week 2 schedule just yet? You gave us some pretty good insight, funny insight as to your watching over this past weekend. What are you going to be watching this upcoming weekend? Are there some games to you that kind of stand out more than the others?
Let's see. Bears, Seahawks, we need to see more Justin Fields. We need to see more Drew Lock. We need to see more Geno Smith.
That's a Buck Aikman debut, isn't it?
Who is that?
Isn't that the ESPN game? Isn't that the Joe Buck Troy Aikman debut?
That might be the Joe Buck Troy Aikman debut. And we might see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in that game too. But I will not be watching that live. I'm going to the Santana concert on Thursday.
Oh, see, you're a smart man.
Doing
I think
the Santana thing. Can't complain. Can't give you a hard time for that one. No, Monday night game is the first ESPN game, right?
Oh, Falcons Jets.
I got tickets, which I'm not going to use. I'm going to be watching Bucket Aikman on TV just like everybody else. But that's my preseason game this year is Falcon Jets. Sorry, I'm not going. I'll be in front of the TV to that one to watch Joe Flacco spin the football. Has looked good in Jet Camp. What happens if he goes 2-0 while Wilson's on the sidelines? Oh, we could have a quarterback controversy in Jersey this year. Mark it down. Jody Mack says it's going to happen.
It is going to happen. It is definitely going to happen. And the Jets are trying to pour cold water on it. Like, we don't know how long Zach Wilson will be out, so that if he's out an extra week or two, like, the fans don't come with the pitchforks and the shovels. But yeah, and also the Falcons, you get Desmond Ridder, who looked kind of okay, and Marcus Mariota, who we watch every time he scrambles, like he's going to get hurt. He's okay. So that's not a terrible preseason game as a debut to watch. I will be watching that next Monday night, but I'm looking over the schedule, and that's the thing, with 3 preseason games, who do you want to see? The rookie quarterbacks, the quarterback controversies. So again, we're going to be looking at the Seahawks, looking at the Steelers, the Falcons a little bit, the Titans with Malik Willis, to kind of see how these guys are shaking up.
Speaking of Malik Willis, did you have a problem with Vrabel kind of benching him mid-drive? That was the one game I watched Thursday, and why is he taking him out? And then he said he took him out because, he wasn't throwing the ball. So I guess Willis isn't as advanced as we thought he was, or I don't know what the deal is.
I don't think any of us thought he was advanced. To be fair, coming out of Liberty, like, if you were really being honest about it, like, if you weren't like, oh, I love this kid because he's a small school wonder, he's not very advanced. I mean, as a coach, you're like, okay, hand off on 3rd and long, then take him out so it doesn't become a controversy. That's about the only thing I would say about that. He was holding the ball too long. Malik Willis, again, he's from Liberty. The one time he ever faced a real opponent was Mississippi, and he really struggled against them. He's running around. He can scramble very well. He's holding the ball too long. He's not seeing the receivers downfield. He's not ready this year. He does have a good arm, showed some promise, but that turned into one of those tempest in a teapot controversies because it's preseason. What do we do? Oh, we stump for the rookie quarterback. He's awesome. Let him play, put him out there because, it's like rah. It's not my job on the line if he fails, so let's do that. And that's kind of where we were with him on Thursday.
All right, Mike, last thing, I need a prediction from you, and it's got nothing to do with the outcome of a game. It has to do with, and it affects the Eagles this week, will the expedited, and I did look it up and made sure I understood what the word was, and I'm not misunderstanding it, expedited decision by the appointee of Roger Goodell was supposed to come down. It's already been almost 2 weeks. Will we have a decision from the former Attorney General of the state of New Jersey, Peter C. Harvey, before Sunday when the Eagles played the Browns? Or is how long Deshaun Watson's going to be suspended going to stay a national secret till hours before the first game of the season? Will they have a decision before Sunday?
I thought we were going to get one at the end of the week last week. So I thought when Deshaun Watson is starting a preseason game, Goodell was going to say, get him off TV, get him out of there. Now that hasn't happened. I am off the projection timetable with this. I think we might see it. What's the Friday before Labor Day, whatever day that is, at 4:59 p.m., when most of us are hoping to get to the beach for an hour or two. I think that's when we're going to get this goofy thing. And it will not be the end of it because, again, the Watson's lawyers and the NFLPA are going to file to a federal court. It will fail in the federal court, but they'll file to a federal court. So even then, we will not have final resolution.
Mike, great stuff. We appreciate it. Whenever you come on, you give us good insight and a couple of yucks while you're at it, which I appreciate at least. Like having fun with you when you do join us. Thanks for doing it today. We'll get you back up in a month or so. Thanks, buddy.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Mike.